Okay, so you've got that art restorer interview coming up.
A big day,
Huge. And we are diving deep into RoleCatcher's resources to get you prepped.
not just on the art itself.
Exactly, but on how to really nail that interview.
It's such a fascinating field because it really blends creativity and scientific precision.
Totally. So we're going to unpack not just what skills you need, but how to actually show them off.
Yes. Demonstrate that you have what it takes.
Right, like I'm the restorer for this.
Exactly.
So RoleCatcher, they've got this whole system,
I
right?
do.
Free career guides, AI to help with applications, and even like practice answering questions.
It's like having a whole team prepping you.
Totally.
Yeah, it's impressive. 3,000 career guides, 14,000 online resources, over 120,000 practice interview
It's
questions.
a gold mine. Okay, so using those tools to research and really make yourself stand out, that's key.
Preparation is key, absolutely.
But you, listening, you are here for the questions.
Of course.
So let's dive into some examples that RoleCatcher gives.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, describe your experience with different art restoration techniques.
Classic. It's a classic for a reason.
It's got to be in there.
They're assessing your practical experience, which is essential.
Totally.
Mm.
And even if you've got some experience, this is where RoleCatcher's AI feedback can be so helpful.
Absolutely.
Because you could say, oh yeah, I've cleaned a canvas.
Right.
But it's different when you explain it and you sound like you know what you're doing.
You've got to know the materials, the solvents, the whole process. Being able to articulate that is key.
It shows that deeper understanding. What are some follow-up questions they might ask to dig a little deeper into those techniques?
Oh, they could get specific, like, tell me about a time you encountered a particularly difficult stain. Or, how would you approach a tear in a fragile canvas?
Okay, so be ready for anything. It's about showing, not just telling.
Exactly.
What if they ask, have you ever restored a really valuable artwork?
Portfolio time. The guide even talks about this. Even if you're just starting out, showcase what you've done, small projects, anything.
So important.
It makes a difference.
Okay, next question. How do you determine the authenticity of an artwork?
Now it's getting serious. This is about your analytical skills, your eye for detail.
High stakes.
They want to see that you understand pigments, brushstrokes, the whole historical context.
And I'm picturing myself in that interview, and I'm thinking like, proof?
Yeah.
I need to show them, not just tell them.
Yes.
What if they ask to see examples?
This is where that portfolio shines again. Highlight those projects that demonstrate your authentication skills.
It's like you're a detective.
Exactly.
And this is what I love about this approach. It's not just, here's the question, memorize the answer.
Right.
It's about knowing what they're really looking for.
Understanding the why behind the question.
Yes. Okay, another one. Handling delicate or fragile artworks.
Ooh, careful.
Right. They don't want to hear, I'll be careful.
No, they want specifics.
They want to know you know your stuff,
Low pressure cleaning, specialized adhesives.
that you've done your homework.
Exactly.
They also have questions about disagreements with clients.
Oh, that's a good one. That's always a tricky one.
Always tricky, but especially with something as subjective as art.
Absolutely. It highlights the importance of communication, finding that balance between your professional judgment and the client's wishes.
It's a tough one, right?
It is. It's about navigating those potentially choppy waters.
Because you're the expert, but also the client has an opinion.
Exactly. And you need to find that respectful middle ground.
So we've got experience, authenticity, handling delicate pieces, client relations. What else does RoleCatcher say to be ready for?
Well, they emphasize researching the history of an artwork. And this isn't just dates and names.
Right.
This is about understanding the context, the techniques that were used, even the artist's intent.
Wow. So like really getting inside the artist's head?
Exactly.
It's almost like detective work.
It is. You're piecing together a puzzle.
Speaking of detective work, any other standout questions from their list that we should put our metaphorical magnifying glass on?
Well, I found the question about ensuring proper preservation after the restoration is done to be quite insightful.
Okay, yeah, after the restoration.
Because it's great that you can restore it, but you need to make sure it stays restored.
Right. It lasts.
It shows your commitment to the longevity of the artwork, which is paramount in this field.
Right, because what's the point if it just falls apart, right?
Exactly. It's about respecting the integrity of the piece for years to come.
So you're probably realizing this isn't your average interview.
Not at all.
This is about passion.
Absolutely.
It's about in-depth knowledge and that unique blend of like artistry and scientific thinking
It's a unique combination.
that art restoration really needs.
You need both. You can't just have one or the other.
It's like a dance between the two.
It is. It's finding that harmony between the art and the science.
Okay, so we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to dive into even more of these must-know interview questions. So don't go anywhere. Okay, we are back and ready to dig into more of these art restoration interview questions with RoleCatcher.
Let's do it.
I'm looking at this one. How do you prioritize tasks when you're working on a super complex restoration?
That's a good one. It really gets at your organizational skills and how you manage a bunch of moving parts.
Right, because you can't just go in willy-nilly.
No. They want to see that you can think strategically about the whole process.
So it's not just about fixing what's broken. It's like you got to have a plan.
A plan of attack.
Yes.
You might talk about how you'd assess the damage first, then pinpoint those critical areas, and then map out each step. Thinking about the fragility of the piece, what materials you'll need.
Oh, and documenting everything as you go.
Oh, absolutely. Meticulous documentation is key. Which, speaking of, that brings us to another important question, RoleCatcher highlights. How do you stay up to date on all the new techniques, advancements in art restoration?
Because this isn't a learn it once and you're good kind of field.
Not at all. It's constantly evolving. So they want to know that you're dedicated to continuously learning.
Right, like you're not stuck in the dark ages.
Exactly. You might mention professional journals, conferences, workshops.
All learning opportunity.
Even online forums and communities.
Yeah.
Places where restorers connect and share their knowledge.
Oh, totally. And this is where those 14,000 online resources that RoleCatcher gives you
Yes.
come in handy. It's a gold mine.
It's huge. It's like having a direct line to all the newest research, best practices, emerging trends.
Okay, speaking of trends, I'm curious about this question from RoleCatcher. How do you see the role of technology evolving in restoration?
Ooh.
It's something we kind of touched on before, but I'd love to hear your insights.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating area to discuss. You could even talk about the rise of 3D scanning and printing.
Yeah.
Because now you can create such precise replicas of parts that are damaged or even, fragments that are missing completely.
It's like sci-fi, but it's real.
It's amazing. But it's also super important to remember the ethical stuff that goes along with these new technologies.
Right, like where do you draw the line?
It's a balance between preserving what's there and intervening too much.
Right, you don't want to lose the artwork's soul, right?
You've got to keep its authenticity. And that actually leads us to another really important thing, talking to clients.
Oh yeah, the client. Because they have thoughts.
They do. RoleCatcher actually has a specific question about this. How would you explain a really complex restoration to a client who maybe doesn't know anything about art conservation?
Okay, yeah, because you're the expert.
Right.
But you've got to be able to explain it in a way that they get it.
Yes, because they might not know the difference between oil and acrylic. You've got to bridge that gap.
Totally. And I feel like RoleCatcher's AI could be really helpful with that.
How so?
Like, you could try explaining a tricky technique in writing and then get feedback on how to make it clearer, more down to earth.
Oh, that's a great idea. It's like having a communication coach in your pocket.
Exactly.
And speaking of communication, we can't forget teamwork.
Oh, right. Because even though we picture art restorers, like alone in their studio.
With a tiny brush.
Yeah. It's not always a solo mission.
RoleCatcher even asks, describe a time you had to work with others on a project.
So teamwork is key.
It's essential. Because you're often working alongside other restorers, maybe curators, art historians, even scientists, engineers, depending on the project.
So teamwork, communication. It's becoming clear that being a successful art restorer takes a lot more than just technical skills.
You're getting the picture. It's a multifaceted job, and RoleCatcher does such a good job of highlighting those soft skills, too, throughout their whole career guide.
And let's not forget passion. That genuine love you have for art and history that comes through, right?
Absolutely. You can't fake it. It shines through, especially in an interview.
So it sounds like it's really a combination of all those things.
It's the total package. And the great thing is, RoleCatcher can really help you prepare, refine those answers, show off those skills and that passion in a way that's going to resonate with the interviewers.
It's like having a secret weapon in your back pocket.
Exactly. So use it to your advantage and go into that interview feeling confident and prepared to really impress them.
Okay, we're back and ready for the final touches on this art restoration interview prep. It's like putting the finishing varnish on a masterpiece, wouldn't you say?
I like that. A perfect analogy. And speaking of those finishing touches, let's talk about showing off your work, because RoleCatcher really emphasizes how important a portfolio is.
Right, even for entry-level jobs.
Even then, because seeing is believing, right?
Totally. But what if you haven't had a chance to work on, like, those big-name museum pieces yet? What makes a portfolio strong in those cases?
It's all about showing off what you can do, your skills. Include those before and after photos of projects, even if they were something you did just for you.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be, like, the Mona Lisa.
Exactly. Highlight the methods you used, the challenges you faced, and that you took that meticulous care with every step.
And this feels like another area where RoleCatcher's AI could really help.
Oh, absolutely.
You can get feedback on your portfolio, how you present it, all tailored to the specific job you're going for.
It's like having a personal curator giving you tips. They can help you pick the right pieces to include, write descriptions that grab attention, and make sure your portfolio really connects with what the people in the field are looking for.
So smart. So we've covered the technical side, problem solving, communication, being a good human. Anything else? Are there other, like, key qualities that interviewers want to see in an art restorer?
One thing that RoleCatcher really emphasizes is passion and a deep respect for the art, for that cultural heritage.
Because it's more than just a job, isn't it?
So much more. It's about preserving history, keeping those stories alive. And they want to see that you get that you're not just there to, patch things up, but to actually safeguard something really meaningful.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So how do you get that across in an interview? It's not like you can just write passionate on your resume.
It's all about how you talk about art. Do you light up when you talk about a tough restoration? Does your voice get excited when you mention a favorite artist or movement? That's what they'll remember.
It's like letting that inner art nerd run free.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to share what gets you excited about art. Tell them about your own journey, even if your main thing is restoration. Have you always been drawn to museums? Is there an art book you keep going back to? Those personal touches matter.
Because it shows you're not just there to clock in and clock out.
Yeah.
You genuinely care.
And when you truly care about something, it shines through, It's contagious.
It really is. Okay, as we wrap up this deep dive, one final thing that RoleCatcher stresses is preparation. And I don't just mean knowing the answers to typical questions.
Oh, it's so much more than that.
It's about doing your research.
Yes. Research the institution you're interviewing with. Their collections, what they specialize in, any big exhibitions they've done recently.
Because it shows you're not just sending out applications like crazy, You're invested in them specifically.
Exactly. And don't forget to have some good questions of your own ready to go. That shows you're curious, that you're really thinking about it all.
It's a two-way street.
It is. Show them you're engaged and interested.
So, to bring it all together, acing that art restoration interview. It's about showing off your skills, the technical stuff, the problem solving, how you communicate, and of course that passion for the art. It's a lot, but you got this.
You do. And remember, RoleCatcher is there every step of the way with all those helpful resources and advice. So go out there and wow them. Show them what you're made of.
The art world is waiting.